David, let's go right to the top of the table. I'm thinking about Liverpool here. As I mentioned, yes, they lost yesterday, but they still have that lead of 11 points top of the table. It's the personnel losses that they might suffer at some point this summer that's really most concerning for them right now. Let's begin with Trent Alexander-Arnold and the latest on him.
Yeah, Paul, I've not been on since the story kind of developed a couple of weeks ago. And I reported it, that Trent Alexander-Arnold is, of course, the subject of huge interest from Real Madrid and huge uncertainty given his contract situation at Liverpool. Real Madrid are in the process of working to try and finalise the signing of Trent Alexander-Arnold as a free agent in the summer. As far as we know, nothing has been signed yet, but that is the clear direction of travel. And let's see how the next weeks develop. I think his key focus will be to get fit. We've heard nothing from him on this matter, and he'll want to be part of what Liverpool will hope are celebrations as they try and lift the trophy. He's been on Real Madrid's radar for a couple of years, and they've been pursuing this signing since January, the turn of the year, when they've been allowed to speak to him under the rules that you can talk to clubs from overseas if you're into the last 6 months of your contract. Looking at the other players in slightly better news for Liverpool fans, Virgil van Dijk has spoken in the last 24 hours and said there has been progress in talks over a new contract for him. It's been my understanding throughout that Liverpool are confident, optimistic of renewing Van Dijk, and now it's a case of when rather than if he will put pen to paper, barring any last-minute hitches. The talks, the negotiations have been positive and cordial. It's the same situation with Mohamed Salah. Liverpool have been confident throughout that they will retain his services. And like I said with Van Dijk, it's more a case of when rather than if that is going to happen now. And that will be really good news for them. In other matters away from the pitch, FSG, Fenway Sports Group, Liverpool's owners, are trying to buy a second club. We've known about this for some time. And I revealed that Malaga are the club that they've set their sights on in the Spanish second division. They're not the only ones interested. Paris Saint-Germain's owners, Qatari Sports Group, QSI, are too. And Liverpool's owners, FSG, have sent a delegation over to Malaga in February to look at the facilities. And they are exploring becoming the owners of that club, buying out Sheikh Abdullah Al Thani, who is the majority shareholder there. We'll wait and see what happens on that. That could have a big benefit for Liverpool if the group grows and there is potential movement of players between the two clubs. For now, though, Liverpool have a big summer ahead. The contract situations we talked about, potential transfer movements. I don't think right back and Trent Alexander-Arnold's position is the priority in the market if he's to go. I think left back more likely. Milos Kerkez is a player they like from Bournemouth. That would require one of Andy Robertson or Kostas Tsimikas to go. Maybe a central defender too. Let's see if they do anything in midfield. The attack will take some focus because if Darwin Núñez is to leave, could somebody come in to replace him? I think that will be high on the agenda. And the uncertainty over Luis Diaz, who still hasn't had a new contract. So this is an exciting time for Liverpool. It's a period of change, and there could be some incomings and outgoings for sure this summer.
Speaking of big news and outgoings, let's go to Man City. Huge news on Friday after 10 outstanding seasons. Kevin De Bruyne announcing that he'd be leaving that club after this summer. What have you learned now, 3 days later, about that decision?
This was a decision that was brought about, Paul, by Manchester City. They made the call not to offer Kevin De Bruyne a new contract when his deal expires in the summer. I think in an ideal world, De Bruyne would have liked to have stayed on for one more season and gone out on his own terms in the summer of 2026. But tough calls have to be made. Manchester City have decided that they'll be going in a different direction. And from what I hear, Kevin De Bruyne is a top professional and he understood that. And now he's going to look to pursue his career elsewhere. He is fit and he's still hungry. Despite being into his 30s, he wants to continue playing football at the top level. He will have many options. We know the Saudi Arabian interest in him is well documented. I'm not sure, though, that would be his first choice option. I think the MLS carries really strong appeal, and we could see Kevin De Bruyne moving to Major League Soccer. The likes of Inter Miami, watch this space on that one. I think there's a bit of interest on his part. Let's see if it's reciprocated. It's difficult, of course. They've got their DP places full. There'll be other MLS teams too, and maybe even in Europe. Let's see what he does in the final weeks and months of the season, and if he takes part in the Club World Cup for Manchester City. I think that's probably quite unlikely at this point, especially as his contract expires during the tournament, and there's complications over whether he might get injured, where he's going next. But it's a really interesting scenario. Manchester City are embarking upon a huge rebuild now, and it will be without their talismanic player, and that's why the focus of their recruitment will probably centre on that position, the number 10. The likes of Morgan Gibbs-White in the Premier League will be among the names on their radar. So too Florian Wirtz, if we're to look to the continent, and Bayer Leverkusen. They've got more to do. Decisions over the likes of Ilkay Gundogan, given his age and contract situation. Kyle Walker, similarly. What they're going to do with the goalkeeping situation. Ederson heavily linked last summer with a move away. That's all the job of Hugo Viana, the new sporting director, who has now started permanently at Manchester City, moving from Sporting Lisbon. He'll work alongside Txiki Begiristain, the outgoing sporting director, and Pep Guardiola to try and get Manchester City back to where they believe they belong, at the top in domestic and European football. But they'll have to do so without Kevin De Bruyne, the legend who will be departing at the end of this season.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe on the NBC Sports YouTube channel for more content like this.